Okay, Gary, I'm watching you. Okay, my name is Jim Sharrock. I'm the chairman of the Belmar Shade Tree Commission. So Gary invited us to have this meeting together so we could share, as I always say, share things of mutual concern. And I thought it was a great idea that, I think Gary had it, we both kind of agreed it would be a good idea a few months ago. So here we are, but I'd like to get through, since we're the host commission, I think our rules will apply, and we go by Robert's rules in case anybody's interested. So I just want to get the, what we have to do for ourselves, and then we'll go into the regular business. So just something, the open public meeting statement, the meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. And the following notice has been provided to the public through the municipal calendar that is publicly available on the Belmar.com website and the CoStar. If anybody got the CoStar today, there was a notice that we were meeting jointly here today. Both commissions were meeting jointly. So I'm glad I thought of that a while ago, so that's good. Okay, I'll accept the meeting. The April meeting was canceled because of Arbor Day, which was the very next day. So we canceled April's meeting, so we have to go back to the March meetings. I provided a copy. Everybody from the Belmar, the Shade Tree Commission should have had a copy that Gary sent you. So I'll accept the motion to accept the meetings of the motion.
Motion to accept it.
Second.
Second, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Okay, now I'll accept the let me just read one thing. Under the public comment section, members of the public may speak during the public comment portion of the meeting. Comments are limited to 2 minutes per speaker. All bona fides, concerns, or issues should be sent to the Shade Tree. Email shadetree@belmar.com to formalize the issue. Now I'll accept a motion by one of the members of the Shade Tree to postpone the agenda and go to the...
Okay, so I'll make a motion to suspend the regular order of business.
Second. All in favor? Okay. Diane, the floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for welcoming us. I'm Diane Bellew. I'm with the Shade Tree Commission. Not with them, but I'm part of the Environmental Commission. We appreciate the opportunity to see the other commission and kind of see if there's some common grounds, projects that you're working on that we might be able to help out with, or things that we're doing that you might be interested in, ask questions about, or to be more involved. I have just a quick list that I'll go through because one of our members went to the library. He's going to be late, and then we'll introduce everybody once he gets here. On the Belmar website is the Environmental Resource Inventory, and this is it's a comprehensive list of all the resources in the natural environment of Belmar. So that's something that our commission updates periodically, and that's meant for planning purposes, for the community, for homeowners to see and kind of take into consideration when they make choices about construction and landscaping and different things like that. So that's one. Over the past, I guess, year, we got a grant from Sustainable Jersey for our green team, and we used that to purchase informational brochures, which I brought a selection for people to take a look. And these are things we're going to be distributing in the community. Hey, Donna. And also at some public events that are coming up because we want to try to get more information out. We also used some of that money to bring in a speaker. Last Saturday we had a sustainable landscaping and gardening workshop at the Taylor Pavilion, and so we had brought in some people from outside. We also partnered with Lake Como Environmental Commission, which was another nice opportunity to partner with people who have similar concerns and interests in the community. And we're going to follow up with that particular part of it, which is called Patchwork for Wildlife, which is an organization in Lake Como that's expanding into Belmar. And what they do is they give their neighbors props about their lawn management and their yard care. And the idea is to give people encouragement about sustainable practices in managing your yard. Sustainable might mean things like having native plants or planting a tree, any tree. Gets points for that, and other elements to the way you manage your piece of property. And the idea is that we're a residential community, we've got a lot of small yards, but if we all work together, we can change our common environment together. And that it reflects on the wildlife that comes through our area, the birds, pollinators, but also the people, the children, the adults, the people that live here. to work together for a healthier environment. So if anybody is more interested in patchwork, we're looking for volunteer lawns, like if you feel like you want to have your lawn evaluated, or if you want to be involved with talking to your neighbors about what they do with their lawns, or looking at the principles behind the program to see what kind of practices we might encourage people to just consider. It's not a question of judging anybody, it's just a matter of making suggestions to each other about possibilities to make a healthier town. I also want to mention that this year Belmar received the Sustainable Jersey Bronze certification. That's a community-wide recognition from a state organization. And we had a committee of people, several of whom are here, who worked on this with people that work for the town, with the police and Public Works, Shade Tree. You guys contributed points to that as well with the things that you've been doing. So it's been a collaborative effort. And every 2 years we go to renew or improve our certification. And it kind of gives a guideline for the town as to different things to consider, again, for a healthier community. So that's all available on their website. We have a beach cleanup that's happening, a lake cleanup this Saturday, if anybody's interested. I think it's at 11 at Silver Lake, and we're always looking for volunteers. And the final piece I'll mention, then I'm going to go around and introduce ourselves, is Silver Lake. We've been working really hard to try to support the health of Silver Lake and the kind of things that have maybe changed over time in Silver Lake. We had a harmful algae bloom last summer. We've had some invasive plants. We've had some invasive species down there. So we've been working really hard as a committee to try to find resources to come into Belmar. And we're happy to know that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is going to be coming in over the next year, and they're going to send a fleet of engineers to evaluate the conditions of the lake and its surrounding environment, and then what kind of things do we need to do, hi Matthew, in order to bring to bear that. And so that brings to our community $250,000 of work from the Army Corps, brings the expertise of the Army Corps. The borough will do some in-kind matching with that, through Public Works, through different volunteer hours, but it is a benefit for all of us. That's more than we could afford as a small town with a small budget. So those are the highlights of what we've been working on, which I wanted to share. And now what I'd like to do is just go around so we can all introduce ourselves. So I wanted to wait till everybody was here for that piece. So I introduced myself, so this is the other Diane that's here.
I'm the other chair and pull into the table because I'm sorry. Here.
On there.
I don't need to be up
Get
on
the
the
WD forty out. We'll get it here.
Yeah.
Why don't, Diane, why don't we stay with one committee, one
Okay,
commission rather
sure.
than,
Okay,
so you do yours. and
I'll do,
then-
okay, well, I'm Diane Blue, as I
Right.
said. This is Gary Henninger.
Hi, everybody. I'm the Shade Tree Commission before, so this is great. And I spoke to Jim and Diana when I first joined the Environmental Commission because the work was just so symbiotic. And, you know, the environment is our trees. And when you look at our lake in particular, when we do the work around the lake, we're going to be putting in trees and shrubs. So we have to be connected, you know, in that context when we're doing all the work with the Army Corps and going forward so that we're in alignment and we wind up meeting the goals of both of the commissions in terms of the lake. As you all know, my passion is that lake. I'm enjoying the heck out of it, and you know, we've been getting great support, and I'm looking forward to continued progress and looking at some of you when we're taking in the living landscape up there and putting new shrubs and new trees. It'd be a lot of fun.
Hi everyone, Dawn Padovano. I'm newer to the Environmental Commission, but excited to really determine how we can partner together. As Gary said, we're working on many of the same initiatives in a different way, so looking forward to working with you.
I'm Ed Lippincott. I live over on 4th Avenue. I've been on the Environmental Commission for a long time. I don't even remember how long, since Mayor Pringle.
20 years maybe?
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
I'm the previous chair of the Environmental Commission. My main focus now is Silver Lake, and I'm the chief goose wrangler.
You're doing a good job.
I'm just the chief goose, so.
Yeah, don't underestimate
Wrangled them.
all the stuff that Ed's done with the lake is with all the testing that Ed and the team have done has set us all on this course to get us the data that we'll be able to use with the Army Corps. And there's a cadre of people that go around that lake and really do cool things around the lake that people don't know. Taking water quality measurements, chasing the geese, working with birds beware and everything. So Ed is one of the leaders there, and I just think it's good that we recognize that, Ed. So I said more.
No, thanks. You said more, what?
Hi, I'm Fred Thierman, I'm down on 16th Street. I'm sort of new at this, it's been 2 years, I think. Sort of figuring out things that I hope to be a big help.
Hello everyone, I'm Matthew DeAngelis. I'm been on the commission for a little over a year. I've been in Belmar for about 2 years, lived in the area for 7 years. I also serve in the Shark River Cleanup Coalition. I do water testing as well, except instead of the lake, we focus on the bay or the estuary. And my passion and interest is Shark River and the area around Elstree Beach and McCleary Park, and maybe doing things there in the future through the Environmental Commission as well. With all of the amazing things that are happening at the lake, hopefully being a model.
Yep.
I'm Caitlin Donovan, I'm the council liaison to the Environmental Commission.
Nancy, you want to go?
Yeah, I'm Nancy Ostrander, and I've been on this commission for maybe 6 months, so I'm brand new. Not really brand new, but still.
Keith Kleisler, I've been on the commission now 2 years, a little over 2 years.
I'm Jim Sharrock, as I said before, I'm the chairperson now. I joined the commission about 6 years ago, and I thought it was going to be nothing more than pat the little kids on the head on Arbor Day. Actually, it's grown exponentially, and as everybody knows, the trees, the forest, as I call it in the borough, some of the trees are in real bad shape. Some of the trees have public safety concerns to the commission. We try to gently go after people. We got a grant like 3 years ago, where we had a state certified arborist come in and look at stood in front of every tree in Belmar, every tree, although he might have missed one or two. But anyway, and he in my estimation, he was too liberal. He didn't condemn enough of them, but we have to live with what he wrote. So we're in a process. It's been a long, tedious program that Keith and I have been involved in, and going, re-inspecting and talking to people and cajoling them and writing them letters, and then writing them another letter, and then writing them another letter, and trying to get people to cooperate. And it's arduous, believe me. And we don't enjoy going after people and telling them, look, you got to take that tree down. We know it's expensive, but the state statutes and the borough ordinance, place the burden on the homeowner. Because, people say, well, the town should take it down, the planting strip. But now under the, what's the?
Under MS4.
MS4, we've been given private property trees, which we didn't really want, but we were given it to us. So we're in charge of almost every tree in Belmar. So it's a difficult process, and it takes a lot of goodwill, and it takes a lot of fast talking sometimes to talk to people. So we're in that process, and I get frustrated, and Keith gets frustrated with the attitude of people. I'll just give you an example. I said to one woman on 12th or 11th, I forget, and she said, the kids walk back and forth in front of your property. And you got a bad tree, if the tree comes down, blah, blah, blah. And she said, well, can't you tell the kids to walk the other way? So that's what we get. Besides now we're in charge of the, replanting. When people take trees down, we're in charge of the replanting, what they put up, what they can put up, what they can't put up. And that's about it in a nutshell. So.
We've, I think, identified, probably I've got a system that there's about 90-some plus trees in Belmar there, public safety has it. About a year or so ago, we did a stump survey. Gary, you'll remember. We identified 29 stumps that were never taken out, which are a liability. And we went after that, and we were very successful. Pretty much eliminated, I'd say, 90% of them. So we had a lot of success.
Some people are just like, I ain't doing it, so. That's gonna be something left to code enforcement eventually someday. You're up, my man.
Yeah, so last but not least, so Harold Fidali, I live on 12th Avenue. I'm on the Shade Tree Commission now for a little over a year, retired. Actually having a lot of fun with this. as the responsibilities have been growing, the group has actually done a really good job, I think, of coalescing around what the needs are, and I think I've really picked up some good momentum, getting a little more face time, a little more notoriety for the overall group, so it's been a fun process.
I should have got myself, Keith, and Harry are in the process of revising the ordinance to, coincide with a lot of the other issues. The ordinance was a patchwork of about 4 or 5 different add-ons over the years, so we're in the process now of going over that. We've almost at the point where we're submitting it to George McGill for, legal review, so. But Harry's been instrumental, Keith, and we've all contributed something, but that in itself is a task.
We have one other person here.
Yes, I was going to go to her next. I didn't miss her.
I know, you said last and not least, but I'm still here. I'm Diane Calabrese. I've been in town about 3.5 years, and I got on the shade tree like the 2nd or 3rd month that I moved in, because I'm a plant geek and a tree geek, and I love the environment, and I work mostly on encouraging people to plant trees. We do the beautiful Belmar program. We just got another nice order for more trees, which is what I really want to encourage. Nancy and I just went to the Historical Society. We donated from the shade tree a dogwood. Somebody won it. She had lost her dogwood during Sandy, and she was thrilled that she was chosen to get, a dogwood's a native tree. Her name is Pat Malango.
Malingo, yeah, 9th.
Yes.
I don't know where she lives.
She lives on 9th.
Yeah.
So she won it, and we're trying to encourage people to plant trees. And
Is that a possible story for the newspaper?
it's really the, I guess it could be. It
The
was the
Historical
Historical
Society
Is
Society's
gonna do
was
something?
hosting
event.
it, so.
And we did
It's a great story.
Yeah, we were
The Sandy
tabling.
part of it. and
I
everything
know,
else, yeah, it's a
I
really
know.
good story.
So that's what I do.
Jim, I have a question. Who's taking care of the library? Oh, cool. That was
Nancy?
a fun thing I did. I love taking care of those trees there.
I like it.
It's
Yeah.
nice, good.
Well,
If I
as
can
you
ever
know,
help you, let me know.
as you know,
Thank
we lost John,
Yes,
and we had a very clog in our wheels. The guy was a master.
yeah.
He had a master's degree in horticulture, I believe.
Yeah,
And
from
he
Cook
was a
College.
guy, I just got to give this guy a kudo because
He's
last
actually helped us
summer.
with Arbor Day.
Yeah, he helped us with Arbor. He had for personal reasons, he had to move out of town. But last summer, before he knew he had to move out of town, he went down Main Street and pruned every tree on Main Street. He got up in the morning, did it himself. How you doing, John? I'm good. So John Rubel, he lived on 6th.
Yes, well, we actually made him the designated agent.
And
so.
he was a really big loss to the shade tree. But that's enough of it.
And we have Jody.
Yeah.
Jody, and we have Derek. Jody and Derek.
Oh, yeah. Derek.
Yeah, the council liaison to the, like Kate, the council liaison to the shade tree and the DPW liaison, right?
Derek is our DPW liaison, so anything we have to talk about here that he can bring back to Billy Buster, who's been great with us, honestly. Billy's been great. So Derek is our messenger. He says, don't shoot me, but, we send him in there. But Billy Buster's been great. He really has
Billy
been.
is
So.
the best.
Derek is also a goose wrangler, so.
He's a what?
Oh, I already heard about Goose Wrangler.
What is he?
Goose wrangler.
He takes us out to the islands.
Oh,
So that's kind of us in a nutshell. I mean, there's a lot more, but we won't, there's a lot more, but, we won't go into it. But, we have issues with the trees, and the trees aren't getting any younger and they're not getting any smaller. So our biggest problem are trees that, I don't know if anybody knows, is what we call a London plane tree. It's a sycamore, and the bark peels, and people think that's unhealthy, but it's a normal transition as they go through their cycle every year. But those trees, a lot of those trees were planted in like 18, we have trees on 9th Avenue planted in 1899. So their lifespan is about 80 to 90 years old, depending upon the environment and everything. So those trees are way, way over, and, we're just waiting for it to come down, so don't park in front of them. Or
They kind of hollow out in the center.
yeah, there's a method to that where they hollow out, and you have to have at least 3 inches all around. Other than that, they should be condemned. But you can see how hollow they are by every squirrel in the borough, you know, visits them once a day, and, you know, all that stuff. So sycamore trees are big, and there's the other ones too, but I think the London plane is about 40%, or was about 40% of the population in Belmar, the tree population.
And they're humongous too.
And they're huge, they're big. And their limbs, people like look at them, they're tall, they're 35, 40 feet high, but the limbs that come out from them weigh thousands of pounds. That's the problem. If they come down, you know, if they break off and come down in a windstorm or something, and they do come down. I have one more, George Williams, who is on a business trip. I just want to get for the record his, what he does. He's our grant guy. He does a lot of stuff for us, but he is, let me just read. I want to get him in because he took where the heck is it? Just give me a minute. Anybody else has something to say?
I have a question about those sycamores. Are we going to try to replant the same type of tree, or are we, no?
We don't want people to plant them in a plant strip any longer.
Oh, not at all.
You know,
They're not indigenous to here,
No.
right? They're like literally from, they were gifts from like England.
So
they're from London.
London
They're from-
Plain,
They're like,
Hyde Park.
There it is.
when the Queen, I hate it. When the Queen got buried, they were taking, you know, the procession through the park, and there was all London Plains there. Like, I was like,
How
sitting
many
there.
thousand did they give us? They gave Belmar like,
Oh,
They were all over the
I never
state.
knew
There
that.
was millions of them.
oh.
Because I'm from Jersey City originally, and they were right up and down my block, you know, like,
They're all
Believe it.
over. They're in the
It's
Bronx.
just-
They're
all-
everywhere,
Yeah.
everywhere.
I mean, they're very great for the first 90 years, but, you know, it's past that.
Aside from being hollow, they expand, they push up the sidewalk,
Oh, yeah.
ruin the curb, and they just overgrow the plant.
So our general policy is no planting in that strip at all anymore? Or
No, just not those trees.
Just not those
There's
trees.
recommended trees for it.
There's a list of recommended trees?
Yeah, on the website, we've got a list of preferred trees.
Yeah, if people come up to us and they, you know, kind of like encourage or almost make people, if you want to take down a tree, you have to plant the tree. Because we all know what trees do for the environment. I won't go into our Arbor Day presentation, but to the fourth graders, but, you know, they they take in bad air and give us out good air. So, I mean, that's the whole goal of the environmental process. So, you know, we try to encourage people, and then like we kind of, people don't want to plant trees. They don't want trees in front of their house. They really don't. Like, can you give them like the Arbor Day lesson, like how good they are for the environment? I don't care, I don't want a tree. So now what do? Well, you know, and you get the bunkheads with people, and everybody knows, you know, like dealing with people. You know, I dealt with people all my life, so I mean, I'm used to it, but it gets difficult at times. And we try to be benefactors, and we try to be benevolent, we try to help people. Some people just don't want it. Some people don't want to hear it, so.
Some people don't want to spend the money, of course.
One of the things George is working on and helping the group with is trying to, ultimately, we want to get to where there's a master plan for the town, for the trees that we have, like an inventory of the trees that may be falling into this category. Ideally, you want to start pruning these trees and being ready to prune and then replace. So that's all, we're nowhere near that yet, but that's kind of aspirationally where we need to get to.
Let me read George's fire, it's short. This is from George Williams, who lives on 9th Avenue, where Gary lives and I live. Development and maintenance of the shade tree 5-year planting and maintenance plan. Development and presentation of the annual shade tree operational budget to the mayor, which is important. Review and submission of grant requests, partnership with the Belmar grant writer on retaining. Preparation and submission of annual Tree City USA certification for Arbor Day Foundation. Preparation and submission of the annual NJDEP Urban and Community Forestry Annual Accomplishments. Report for the purposes of maintaining state accreditation. So that's all part of Tree City. You know, there's some signs up in town about Tree City. So we're a Tree City member. So George does a lot. I'm sorry, I think he's in Scottsdale. He's one of us who actually works for a living now.
Diane's got a question for you.
Oh.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's all right.
Had a question about what you were talking about, the plan with the trees. Is it a possibility to include green infrastructure or other things besides trees in the plan?
Is it possible? I would say probably possible, but it's already a bit of like trying to, solve for world peace kind of thing. It really is something that we need to get our legs underneath us with. How do you first establish the kind of the inventory and then the process for replacement and everything else? I think you can, that all logically seems like it fit in there. I'm just afraid it's just trying to bite off too much in one
Yeah.
shot type of thing.
I'm
Yeah,
just
we
trying
got
to
a
think
lot
of
on
how.
our plate, believe me,
Yeah.
a lot.
I'm not asking you to put anything on your
No.
plate, I'm thinking if
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
something we could do
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
with you
Yeah.
I have
to
a
make it
question.
broader for the town, yes.
When you're doing the information that when you're gathering the information about Silver Lake, if you could give us a list of recommended trees from the Army Corps of Engineers or
Sure.
whoever you're talking to,
Yeah.
it would be helpful.
Yeah.
Because it's such a unique spot. We do have a list of recommended trees for the community,
Mhm.
Right.
but if you have any information or suggestions
yeah,
about what
we
can
can
be
ask them.
planted
Arguably, that
there.
would be different for the lake than it would be for
Right.
the planting strips.
Would it, would it
Yeah.
also be different for McCleary Park or for Lake Como as well, different trees?
See, the one thing we have to be cognizant of, that trees on public property, there's a watering thing, especially for young
Yeah.
trees.
Yep.
So, we're very aware of that problem, like Gary and I and Lynn, who was a former member, planted some trees by the lake, was it last year or 2 years ago? And I don't think they were very,
I used to lug 10-gallon things
Yeah.
of water.
weren't very
Yeah.
successful,
Yeah.
because
But if you,
young trees gotta be watered.
right,
Right.
but if you start with really small trees,
Right.
they'll actually often do better.
Mhm.
Even bare root trees sometimes do better. But if you plant an oak tree, you would think it might do well, but those roots, I don't know when you hit salt water.
Right,
Like, it's such a unique spot.
right.
So that's, you bring up a great point. When we're in the shade tree, we have the whole inventory of all the trees around the lake, and it's done by, I don't know, it's latitude and longitude, so you can, every tree's already there. So that'll be going to the Army Corps. We'll be working with the Army Corps, and then the Native Plant Society will be looking at all those people. So it is a real key area that we can work on. The other area that I think will tie into what you guys are doing on private property with trees is the patchwork. Is a nice link that if you could tie together the trees that are being done on private property together, what we're trying to accomplish
We don't.
with patchwork.
We don't govern private property trees.
No, but we're just talking about encouraging people to plant trees.
Oh,
So
okay.
you were
Yeah.
saying that sometimes.
Educating and things like that, and then if you come across a property that has, ooh, look at all the great trees this property has, those are people we can publicize and,
I see.
things like that. It's more for an awareness of, you can actually have an impact on your property with the bushes, the shrubs, and the trees that you put up in your garden for the environment in our community. Also, you mentioned McCleary Park. The shade tree was the ones who planted all the trees in McCleary Park all
Yeah.
around. That was about 5 years ago.
About 4 or 5
Yeah,
years.
so I think what you're saying is we do the work on Silver Lake, and we learn from the work on the Silver Lake, and we leverage it there. Even though there's a bulkhead there, the native planting of the trees will tie in nicely there, because that does, I was just walking through there again the other day, and I know why you want to do some things there.
Yeah.
I can see.
But isn't Silver Lake so unique because of the salt air and the
Right.
wind
Yeah.
and the, like,
Yeah.
it's just so much harsher. That's why nothing's over by the gazebo, like, you can't grow anything
Right.
there.
Yeah, it's the first 3 blocks are the really
Toughest,
problem,
Yeah.
with the
And-
salt, the wind, and we need certain trees
Yeah.
that will,
We planted trees all across from the fishing club,
Yeah.
probably 5 years ago, and then I don't think any of those trees survive.
Right.
Because you have to look at trees in the springtime, the salt air, and the young buds, they just suck that in.
Yep.
So,
The salt, and it kills them.
We have learned, and you've done a good job with saying which ones go for Airview A
Right.
to B
Well,
and
we have,
things like that.
on our list, so we have preferred trees on the website, and we have a list of salt tolerant trees. So if somebody wants to plant a tree in the first blocks, we strongly recommend they plant a salt tolerant tree, otherwise
Right.
2,
You're
3
gonna
years,
lose it.
they'll be gone.
and we work with a nursery in Chesterfield called Fernbrook, and they're very knowledgeable, and they give us a list of trees that will work in certain areas. So that's kind of helpful too.
Maybe you can go look at that beautiful
Chesterfield.
Belmar program that we offer just with Fernbrook, Diane. if you
Yeah,
can.
we're trying it for the spring this time. We did the fall, spring was a little iffy. We did get a total of 9 trees, which was good.
That's great, actually. 'Cause
And,
that was all done last second, so.
Yeah.
It was all, yeah.
And-
Kudos to you guys.
We try to do as much as we can on Facebook to encourage people to keep planting, and, take pictures and put it up there, and look what's coming, and we've got 13 trees, and that's education and encouragement is what we're trying to do, getting ourselves out there. We take the little saplings from the Arbor Day, and we put them in the nursery, and we baby them and grow them. I got an acorn from,
How are they doing, Diane, by the
the
way?
acorn?
No, the saplings from,
Oh, they're
are
okay,
they?
but we got an acorn from Bradley Beach. Remember
So that,
yeah, and it was like this big, and we grew it, and it's, how big, Nancy?
It's ready to come out.
Yeah,
Really?
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
did the Arbor Day dogwoods, have they sprouted?
Oh, no,
Not yet?
I don't think so. I haven't been there in a week.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
curious.
Now, this was from the Bradley Beach Shade Tree Commission, called and said, we've got some little oaks, little acorns.
Yeah.
Do you want them? So I got 2, one didn't make it, one did. So we're trying to get people and get the kids educated, and so.
Yeah, what we did with Arbor Day, we expanded the program with both St. Rose on Arbor Day. They come over to the library, and we have planting boxes or like a little garden in the yard. And that's what we're talking about. What Nancy takes care of. Now she waters it. Gary did, and I did. We all did, but Nancy's volunteered to water. Of course, those trees, when we plant, whatever we plant on Arbor Day, they got to be watered all the time. Even with, well, not so much now because of all the rain we had, but they got to be watered. So I mean, during the hottest days of the summer, like we were going over there and watering them. So we did that, and then what we used to do was bring Belmar Public and St. Rose together, sometimes at different times, but it got to be too crowded. So a couple of years ago, we thought of the idea, we went to the public school, Belmar Public, and we have planting boxes in the back of the yard. And we did the same thing Arbor Day, so we do St. Rose in the morning. It's a nice little ceremony. The kids really, like 4th graders, you can get their attention. And then, so then we do that at St. Rose, and we use the planting boxes at the library. Anybody want to go over there and look at them? And then in the afternoon, we go up to the Belmar Public, and we do the same presentation in the auditorium, and then we go out to the field in the back, where the fences in the back, and they have planting boxes, and we try to get the kids, like, and they're 4th graders, so they're pretty susceptible to our charms, they get along with. So we have, and it's really, we like it. The people that do it really like doing it, so it's great to do. It's fun with the kids, it's a fun day for us to be able to reach the kids, so.
So you guys, the 2 trees that were planted on the public school property, those are flourishing right now.
Yeah.
The oak in front and the other oak on
Yeah.
they're flourishing. And, we talked about trying to get publicity for the Environmental Commission. One of the things is that when we do these things, we're thinking, like, do you put plaques? Should we put plaques and say, things, just to get a little more publicity out? It's just something that, there's actually sometimes money for that, right, Dan?
You're working on another grant right now, and one of the things that was funded is signage. So
Yeah.
you can get money to pay for signs that would say, maybe give more information on why you shouldn't feed the geese, or maybe it would have more information about the benefits of native plants, or maybe it's just, how great oak trees are in New Jersey, that they're native trees, and all the benefits, so you can kind of have a short little kind of informational thing, and then put Shade Tree Commission on it.
Did you do I'll call it the Belmar Walk, but if you walk along that boardwalk.
The
by
treasure
park,
trove?
Yeah, and they have the plaques and the
Yeah,
information.
there's like the QR
Did you
codes.
do that?
Yeah,
They're nice.
thanks.
Yeah.
So that was done years ago, and then it was redone a couple years more recently. But yeah, it kind of gives people a little local
Yeah.
history. But anything that, like signs can also be a way to share information like that with people as they come through. And maybe they'll think twice about littering, because you talk a little bit more about how we don't just don't want you to feed the swans because we just don't want you to feed the swans because it's not good for the swans. If you give them popcorn and potato chips and it's not good for them, they're not meant to eat those things. so maybe a little bit more in signs.
Mhm.
So we've been, over the past year or so, we've been really working with the grant writers, as you mentioned, to try to come up with opportunities and then come up with ideas that things we want to support and then try to get the resources that way. And publicity is one of the things. So we got our small grant for a social media consultant so that she can help us be better at explaining things to our neighbors, sharing information on what we're doing, not criticizing people, just trying to persuade them to think a little deeper about the choices that they make. So those are things that we'd be happy to share with all of you. That's why we're here tonight, to talk
Yeah.
about what we're doing, you know?
Yeah,
So, yeah.
because we do cross over a lot.
Yeah.
Of course, you know.
And,
We can
yeah.
share the publicity maybe in some ways, like, we're trying to get information out about trees, we're trying to get information about just this whole patchwork for wildlife, which includes planting trees. So we're all on the same, we're all on the next team together, you know, kind of thing, so,
And
Maybe not.
these guys have shrubs too,
yeah.
right?
So it's like,
Yeah, I know
well-
we haven't done, we never did much with shrubs, but it's in the ordinance.
It's on
trees
our
in-
ordinance.
It's on some.
Yeah, we really have domain over the planting strip, I mean, if you read the ordinance. but,
Yeah.
Yeah, like you can't put a flower pot in a planting strip or.
Which there are numerous.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, but, you know, you can't like build a concrete abutment or, you know, but you really can't do it. The planting strip is ours. Everybody knows what the planting strip is,
Yeah.
right?
And when it comes to private property, I don't know if you're familiar with the MS4, the municipal stormwater
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
that came out last year. So that gave us authority over private property. But we can't tell you, you can't plant a apple tree in your backyard, that's not the point. But if someone wants to take trees down on their private property, they actually need to get a permit.
Okay.
If a developer wants to raise a house and take trees down, they need to now get a permit and provide a diagram of what they're doing. We actually
Right.
approve it and suggest, hey, you took 3 trees down, you need to plant 3 trees. Within the ordinance now, there's a tree replacement fee. So if you don't want to replant, the state, as DEP came out with a fee per caliber of the tree as to what you need to pay to not replant.
Where does
What's
that
the
money go?
enforcement go?
Well, civil, like,
Enforcement?
Yeah.
You're looking at them.
No, well, I mean, like, do you go and look at new development to see if they're abiding by
No,
the
because
decisions?
The planning board, zoning board, we're on part of that technical committee.
Okay.
So if a development comes out, the developer will have a whole plan, and we'll be called in and, okay, you've got 3 trees here you're taking down, what are you gonna do, that kind of thing, and we'll
you know, there was,
outline
Well,
what.
my question is more, once the house is up, do you go back and look?
well, you know what?
Yeah, we haven't had
Because
any
that's
of
the
those yet.
refrain I
Yeah,
constantly
yeah,
hear
yeah.
from the
We're-
zoning board, too.
We're new into that
Yeah.
game, but I'm gonna tell you, we will, because even the mayor has complained, and numerous people have complained that when people submit these plans to the planning board, there's a tree here, and a tree here, and then a tree around the corner. And then when the tree is built, and you go back 2 years later, those 4 trees that were in the
The rendering,
perspective,
yeah.
they're gone, they're not there.
Yeah.
And you could go down some blocks in this town where there's a lot of new houses, none of those houses have trees in front of them. So, you know, it's hard for us to go back now and say, you know, dig out their plans from like 2005 and say, this is what you planned. But really, that's why, through Keith's effort, honestly, we went through the rigmarole with the planning board. It's actually in the perspective that they have to fill out, like, and it goes into the trees, like, you're taking them down, right?
When you go through a zoning, a minor land use application, and it's denied, you now have to go to the zoning and planning board. I don't have one with me, but there's a lengthy checklist on every aspect of the new premises. We're now added, are you taking a tree down, are you planting trees? So we get to kind of monitor that.
Is that code enforcement, Jody? What do you think?
It's not code enforcement, it's,
But I mean, after the fact,
I think it is.
like, 1 year later, after the house is up, that's what I'm talking about.
yeah, there was a question as to whether we have the right to go on private property without the owner letting us go on. If
Mhm.
there's a hazardous tree that's about to fall, that's a different story. So it hasn't come up yet, to be honest.
We expect it will.
Yeah, we've had a few houses they built a new house, they took the tree down in the planting strip, and we notified them, and essentially the builder has to take out a permit and must replant during a period of time, 12 months.
Mhm.
So,
But this is all kind of the stuff that I was referring to before about the growing responsibilities of this committee.
yeah.
Right.
Like, a lot of this stuff sounds great, and it all sounds very logical,
Yeah.
but it wasn't in place.
Right.
So the part that we're talking about now, I mean, Keith kind of, as Jim said, kind of worked with the planning board to fight to just get us
On
into
it.
their awareness to say, you have to ask this question, because we're blind to it.
Yeah.
Right? The MS4 thing, the state changed the ordinance. It wasn't like the Shade Tree Committee was petitioning to say, let us be responsible for private property. If anything, we were saying, we don't want to be responsible for private property. The state comes back, updates the ordinance, and lo and behold, Shade Tree Committee is responsible for it. So now we're scrambling to try and figure out, well, what does that really mean? How much can we actually reasonably do?
And that's been in place for years, but nobody knew until like, what, January?
Right.
And
And that's what
it's
Jim
been-
was referring to before about rewriting the ordinance, because the ordinance now says, they grab a piece, they stick it in, they grab a piece, they stick it in, and there's stuff that's in there that we're not responsible for, this doesn't even get done anymore. Some of them may have been in there for 50 years.
And some actually, they put something like a piece in,
Yeah.
and it contradicts something from 10 years ago, so.
There were multiple amendments back since '91, when the initial ordinance was created.
These
And
types of ordinances
subsequent-
are not new, but they're new to Belmar.
Yeah.
Other towns have had ordinances like this. I know Neptune, Tinton Falls, they've all had, I'm sure.
It's
plenty-
funny because.
Plenty of other towns in New Jersey.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody knows Frank Sinelli, but I happen to be real good friends with him.
Yeah.
He stopped by my house the other day. He's the code enforcement officer now for Lake Como, Neptune City, and Spring Lake. So he has all that. He told me now, a new thing in Spring Lake, when a developer wants to take down a tree and build a new house, he has to go out and measure the tree, the circumference of the tree, and say it's 40 inches. Well, the person, the homeowner is responsible now, and it's like $400 times 40. It's like huge.
That's
And
the
that-
fee I was referring to in the.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
ordinance.
and that all goes
Thousands of
into,
dollars.
that all, Frank says, it all goes into the Spring Lake Shade Tree Committee. They have a committee, I have a commission.
Well, we have that too,
We have
with
tree
our
fund.
tree
We have a
fund.
fund.
We have
Yeah.
$4,000.
Yeah, but we don't do that. Yeah, but we don't-
4,500 to be exact.
What I'm saying is, we don't do that.
What
You
do we
know,
do?
like
Measuring the trees.
Measuring
No.
the trees.
Measuring the caliper of the tree and all
I
that.
said, what do we do?
Oh.
Well, I
It
think
has
we'd
not
have to
come
go.
up yet.
Yeah, I think we'd have to go
To be
with
quite
like,
honest,
We'll figure it out.
in the ordinance, it's in there.
No,
There's
but
a
maybe she
table.
wants to know, share with Kate, like, how do we have 4,500 in our
Thank you.
fund?
Okay, so,
Yes.
so, there's a tree fund. So, every time I do a permit, there's a fee. So we add to the tree fund. And, you know, I track it, and we had about $400 and so dollars
Last year only.
last year.
Yeah,
So I
like
reached
in a
out,
year.
and I wanted to be sure what the tree fund was, and I reached out to the CFO, I forget her name.
Lorraine.
but,
Lorraine.
right.
She goes back, she says, it was $4,000. What? So what, they went back with this new MS4 ordinance, they established this tree fund, and they clawed back all the old permit fees. So right now, we've got about $4,500 in the tree fund. And even on the permitting, we did 18 permits over the last 2 months. So far, year to date, we've done 40 permits, because we've been sending letters out, tracking people, and getting them to take these hazardous trees down. And we're really, really moving forward and doing a lot of work in terms of getting hazardous trees down, and the tree fund is growing.
I have a question that I should know the answer to, but I don't. If you are planting a tree but not taking a tree down, do you still need a permit?
Yes, you
Yes.
do.
Okay.
If it's on the planting strip, not
Yes.
private property.
If it's on the planting strip, yes. If it's on private property, no.
Okay.
But if you're
That's
taking a
good
tree
one.
down on private property, you need a permit, so go
So,
figure.
excuse me, but the only other thing that I wanted to bring up, and Kate and I have talked about a little bit, was the grant that we're getting for the New Jersey Transit. We brought it up to Jim Orris that we wanted to be involved in that, so that you know, but the environmental, you guys should do the same. Because he was like, oh, why? And we were like, well, when we get this $454,000, we would like to be able to plant trees and beautify the area,
Jody, is
so.
that the park or the
The
train
New
station?
Jersey
'Cause
Transit
there's
is
two
the
different
train
ones.
station. The train station.
What happened with the park?
I don't know what's happening.
Which one?
Well, there was some kind of plan to redo the park. and-
The one over,
That is
By
happening.
the
We
bay.
haven't received money for anything else yet, but
Okay.
that's supposed to happen, I
Yes.
think, this year.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
that is supposed to happen.
So I believe that we should be working with the environment, the shade tree, and he was like, he had a way to do it, like, oh, who would I contact? And I told him to contact you, like, we definitely want to be involved.
Right.
And that was like news to him, so environmental commission should do the same.
We can put the designated people on an email. to
Okay.
Jimmy.
All right, guys, good. Thank
I've
you
been
so
taking that
much.
train
Good
last
to
couple
see
times,
everybody.
coming back from,
Thanks,
from
Joe.
the
Yep,
airport.
I'll see you,
I've
just
been
give me a
taking the
quick
train from the
rundown of
airport
everything,
down.
so for the meeting.
Our
Okay.
train station is horrible. It's
It is.
it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It is embarrassing, especially when you come down through, Elberon and all the nice towns up that way there, and you get to our place, we can do a lot.
We
Well,
can do
We could be
better.
better.
Yeah.
We could be better.
That's New Jersey Transit's
Yeah.
problem, all right? and
Yeah.
like-
We do
That's what I mean, if we're gonna get a
Yeah,
grant, you can
yeah.
kind of do something to the area, and I think you can
Well,
make
they
a
have
big
plan.
change.
But we
They're
could have
gonna redo
input
the whole
into what
thing.
we put in
So
there,
input.
what plants,
Really?
what native trees,
Yes.
what shrubs,
yes,
to
exactly.
make it more environmentally friendly as
Bring
well
those
as
to the
attractive.
people.
What do you consider to be a local native plant? What's the what's the geography? Is it New Jersey? Is it North America? Is it the Northeast?
Is it Belmar?
Yeah.
Well, it depends which part of town you're in, like you said about the trees. If you're closer to the ocean, the environment will change. And I just wanted to, on a side topic, just ask about public works. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, yes.
So, it's come up before that when you plant trees, you need a lot of water. If there's not a water source where you plant the trees, that's an issue. Is there some way we could think about this differently with public works, so that public works could take care of watering the trees?
Well, can I answer that, Diane?
Well,
Because-
yeah, but I just kind of wanted to hear.
But I don't know if Derek's gonna,
Well, we give you a whole bunch of water bags, right?
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, we have water bags,
but
but
somebody has to fill those
they
things.
have, what do they call it, caribou? What do they call the truck?
We have the
Buffalo.
gator.
Well, buffalo.
It's a
The
bladder.
buffalo, you're
They
close.
have that. I know.
Caribou.
I know it's some sort of, I know it's an animal.
It's a buffalo, water buffalo they call them.
But the reason I'm bringing this up now, in reference to what she was bringing up about native plants, is if we work on changing what's growing in Belmar, native plants don't require as much irrigation and maintenance and tending, which could free up some time to do other things like water trees. And I'm looking at, I don't mean to put you on the
Yeah.
spot, but I'm just putting that out there from us to Public Works, that maybe if we talk about things a little differently, we might be able to make a little more progress. That's all.
Yeah, that's something I'll bring up with Billy,
Yeah.
but
See, along those lines, that's one of the things that George is doing for
Right.
us, when we're talking about our budgeting process, right? Again, these are like all the pieces that you have to put in place and then you tie them together.
Right.
So the budgeting piece, one of the things we're trying to do is say, rather than just guessing, why don't we kind of put pen to paper and come up with some like realistic examples, right? And in that, there's actually some of the stuff that we were saying that we could possibly do. We'd also say, well, this may mean that DPW may need to get, to do this, you need one person, or to do this, you need two
Right.
people.
So it's a collaborative planning.
But then they
process.
have to put it into their budget, right?
Right,
And that's
right.
why it becomes this like layered process that,
But it requires communication
Yes.
amongst other
Yeah,
parties.
correct.
That's just why I'm bringing that out.
Yeah,
the
no, you're
other-
right, you're right.
It's not,
100%.
it's not
Yeah.
all on you guys.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like all of us together, including people who work for the borough. Maybe if we think a little differently about where we're gonna go, planning ahead,
yeah, yeah,
having
100%.
different things to take care of, we could do it.
I mean,
I know it.
I've said to Gary 100 times, I think the lake is the jewel of Belmar. It really is. It really is.
It's beautiful.
It's
a
beautiful,
spot.
I mean,
Yeah.
but, it needs a lot of work. I mean, even the soil, the trees that we planted, the soil is terrible. You need, in the grant, besides planting trees, you basically need an irrigation system, and that's money. So, because you can't depend on Public Works to water that, well, I'm just saying.
Like, when you talked about planting 3 or 4 trees, and there's no water source, like, in the planning process, we have to think about the water source before
Right.
we decide where to put the trees.
Exactly right.
That's what we learned, so that's just
Yeah,
learning
exactly.
together, that's all.
Yeah,
To your point, this is where working with US Army
Right.
Corps of Engineer, developing our landscaping plan to do all these things so that when we get the next tranche of money, because estimate to fix the lake, it's going to be probably asking for $4 to $5 million in grant money to help us pull that off. It's not going to be insignificant.
And it's not isolated from other things going on in town, like working on the infrastructure, the roads, the pipes,
Yeah.
all the outfall pipes that lead into the lake. All of these are affecting all of these ecosystems in
Right.
such a way that it makes collaboration necessary between DPW,
Right.
Shade Tree, and
Yep.
Environmental Commission.
So as we work together on that, as you're saying, because I believe like you, it's a jewel of the town, that you can show a lot with native planting, with trees, and have people go there, just like one day at McCleary Park, just like we did at P&O Plaza. And I don't think people realize what a jewel P&O Plaza is now. The work that you guys did at that plaza with the, on Earth Day with, what was it, the landscaping company was
Right.
outstanding. That's something that we might want to put in for patchwork, because they redid that whole plaza. with
You know, we
beautiful
took all the
plants.
old trees down and
Yeah,
planted
so
some new
there's a
ones.
lot of things that you look at specific areas in our town that you can highlight to people to see, well, you want to look at a redbud, go to P&O Plaza, right? You want to look at the oak, go to look, that oak's doing beautiful right now, right? The myrtle, all those things. So I think, as you're saying, if we do the same thing at All Lake, someday at McCleary, you have these places. And what we can't forget about is the beach, but that's another topic for another day for the dudes.
But before you go on to another topic, I just, to reiterate what you said, because one of the things I didn't mention about patchwork is they do this geo-mapping thing.
Yep.
And they put on the map all the locations and what's growing there. So that if you want to see an example of a redbud or
Mhm.
whatever else it is you're
Who
going
is
to
Patchwork
yeah.
for my own, what is
Patchwork for
Patchwork?
Wildlife is it's a nonprofit organization in Lake Como. A gentleman started it over there with his neighbors. He has a huge garden where he grows native plants and demonstrates different ways to take care of your landscape and your
Okay.
property. He does training for gardeners, but they have a recognition program for homeowners where they give people, they recognize the sustainable changes or elements to their yard. And then they encourage them to be models for their neighbors, so their neighbors can also see the benefit of having a tree, or the benefit of having maybe native plants that don't require an irrigation system, or it cuts back on your water bill, or it's less of an impact on the town water system because you're changing what you're planting. And once they identify specific yards, they geo-map these things. They have a website where anybody can go and see all the places that are being recognized, and specifically why, so you can see examples. So Lake Como is there. They're putting up, we have 6 yards in Belmar where we started last year. Red Bank is doing it, and Point Pleasant. So they're starting to expand to other shore towns.
All through that same patchwork?
Yep. Yep, so we're sort of starting the Belmar division of patchwork through the Environmental Commission.
You know where, what's it called, Surf Shack?
Joe's
Yeah.
Surf Shack.
Up a couple streets west, it's called Candide's Garden.
That's what I'm talking about.
I know, John.
Yeah.
He's got a little sign that says Candide's Garden, and he's got all these plants with little labels.
It's 18th Avenue.
That's right where he
Where is it?
is.
That's 513 18th Avenue. It's called Candide's Garden. There's like a plaque out there. People are
I
welcome to
think
come
I've
and
seen it, but
see.
I'm not.
I get a lot of mail for it because I'm at 513
There you go. Very close.
513th acre, I gotta look at that.
Yeah.
And he'll be happy to talk to you and
Yeah.
show you things and give you plants and.
Is there a state accredited version of that, or something?
He has worked with a couple of university professors, like on setting up the geomapping and stuff. And he does master gardener workshops over there for the county. But he's a private nonprofit.
The geomap is referring to GPS location, is that what he's using?
I don't mind, might not be using the word right, but if you look.
Sounds like, it sounds like
Yeah,
that's
It
what
shows all
it's-
the lots in the town, and then it
Yeah.
highlights the ones that are.
I think that's what George was working on.
Yes, that's why I'm asking that question, because the next tree inventory we do, they were.
That's for the tree inventory.
Right.
GPS location per tree.
So we did tree inventory, but now they want it with GPS.
Right now, we have by address,
Okay.
so.
But you know, something that Gary mentioned, like, and what you mentioned, you have a grant for social media or something
Yeah,
coming?
we get Sustainable Jersey, because the town went through this certification, kind of like, they got to know us, and so then they
He
have
did
like
something,
these
George did
grants
something for that one
they
too, I think.
award, so we were
Didn't
awarded
George submit
this
something
another
like that?
grant.
Because that would be a good thing
So I
for our
recall, yeah.
groups
Yeah.
to, like, if you want to see a redbud, go to blah, blah, blah. If you want to see, I don't think we have any beach plum, but say we did, beach plum, go here. Maybe your PR person or your social media person could really hone in on that.
Well, yeah, we're here to hear ideas and suggestions, so, you know, we have like another couple months of her services. I asked her today again about the patchwork, to see if she would do something more about that. but certainly we can talk about the trees. And we try to link to other things, like we have a Facebook page. Do you have a Facebook page?
Yes.
So we could maybe try to link to each other and things like that.
I think one of your people does all the time. I don't
Okay.
know. Elena?
Oh, Ileana?
Yes, maybe. Is she on your?
I send my
group?
stuff to the shade tree and we repost it.
So he's doing it.
What?
Ed, he said
I
he's.
send
He's a
my-
social
my
media
posts-
guy, yeah.
I send my posts to the shade tree commission and you guys have reposted them.
Okay, yeah, I do the
Same
Facebook,
thing
well,
with
Keith and I do.
Belmar locals. and
Yeah.
Belmar.
Yeah. Because somebody else, Elena, Alana?
Ileana.
Ileana,
Yeah.
always comments. But if we did more of that,
Yeah.
that would help.
If he wants
And,
to, yeah, I'm gonna have to do it.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
even
what
like
St. Joey's haven't done.
birds. And,
Well, we expect
you know, like
this to go.
Okay.
Doug Talame, I put the book out, his oak thing at our display. Maybe our library could do something too with having more.
That
Seriously.
would be great. And even just, does he have those
Yeah,
books,
I
or
mean-
how many books at the library?
It's my own copy, I don't know where, I didn't see it, but I don't know.
They're very responsive, it's worth asking.
Yeah.
Never, ever
definitely.
fails.
But that would be a good thing for kids, like have adults and kid books and, you know, a whole thing on trees and the environment.
I mean, we could get them to do a thing for like kids' books and give away like kids gardening materials and stuff like that. They'd be really into it. I've tricked my kids into doing lawn work for me.
It's definitely.
Good trick.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very responsive.
Okay,
So I do have a question.
Yeah.
At the end of this, I'll take it, you can put me in your shade tree as an activity, because I know you guys did it, but I would like to give a list of things for you and Diane to look at of areas that we can collaborate.
yeah, mutual,
And
yeah,
some ideas of
absolutely,
that.
1000%.
And then you can send it to each of the communities after you guys send it to them, and then see what we go from there. And, you know, you could just have just like we did when you guys appointed me to do the sustainable Jersey
Right.
to Diane's, to the EC, we could do the same thing back and forth maybe. Would
Yeah,
that be-
sure, absolutely.
All right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything, you know, besides just going back and forth, is there anything else that we should bring up here, that we're all here? And I'd like to plan for another meeting sometime in the fall, maybe November. Christmas gets a little, you know, so, I mean, if that's okay, we'll shoot for the November meeting,
Sure.
okay? And we'll meet here, because I know the library is
It's a little
a
smaller.
little small for, you know, we used to meet there, and it was really small.
Yeah.
So I think if and we're missing one or two people anyway, so we'll probably have to get another table, so, somewhere. So if there's nothing else, you know, I'll accept the motion to adjourn, but I'd like to give anybody from the public, as a,
Yeah.
yes, sir,
I'm Neil Scheck from 410 4th Avenue,
right,
and not that it counts for anything, but I was a member of the Shade Tree. I served from 2009 to 2013
okay,
under Brian McGovern.
right,
Glad to hear the mighty oak getting some good words here. My expert praises the oak tree as a single native plant species that can host and spur the most biodiverse life. So I'm pro-oak. I have a question with the tree removal ordinance. How big does the tree have to be included?
I'm not sure I understand your
What was
question.
his I couldn't, what
How
was it?
big does a tree have to be included in the tree removal ordinance?
In terms of planting strip or private property?
How big does it have to be?
Anything,
Well,
like 6 inches diameter or
to be removed?
to be covered, where you can't remove it without
Oh,
paying or replacing it.
There is a, yeah.
There's a caliper listing on the ordinance. I don't have it.
Yeah,
I don't have instant recall on it, but if you give me an email address.
Neil
I'll let
Scheck
you
at
know.
yahoo.com.
Hold on.
Neil
Neil
SCHECK
ECK.
at yahoo.com.
It should be the same ordinance that, since you were,
It's that
Well,
list.
at my time, I think we recommended against the ordinance because we were concerned that a lot of times people will have trees sprouting up on their property, like along the border lines and stuff, and next thing you know, you got like 8 trees that might be covered by the ordinance.
Well, you recommended against it. It was
Right.
never in the ordinance until the MS4 came into effect about 1.5 years ago. And DEP included that in the ordinance and mandated that the towns include that. So that's why it's in there now. And there's a table And again, I don't have instant recall about the caliper, but there's a caliper list, and if you remove the tree and you don't want to replant based on the width of it or the caliper, there's a fee. And it's a running scale. The wider the tree, the more the expense. Right. I don't recall, what the minimum is. I mean, if you got a little sprout, no one's gonna, say anything.
Yeah.
But I'll let you know.
Good. Another question inspired by your saying there's 90-plus trees that need to come down, and you can't, it's hard to
We've
convince people.
identified trees that are public safety hazards.
Right.
Now,
Is it-
that could be, no, that doesn't mean a tree has to come down. There could be a tree, like a London plane, that's relatively healthy, but has branches extending over sidewalk or the street, where the branch is dead, and it could come down on a car
Or a person.
Or a person. So those are part of the 90-plus
Okay.
trees we've identified. We've had a number of homeowners, we're sending letters, and they've decided to trim the trees or actually take the tree down. But it includes those, it includes trees that may be healthy but are pushing up a sidewalk. Gonna know a lot of those. So there's a lot of different variables. Some trees that have just, outgrown the planting strip, are pushing the sidewalk up, destroyed the curb, and they're a danger to public safety and people getting out of cars. Stumps.
I just, considering the difficulty of getting people to actually pick up a phone and get a company to come in, is it conceivable that the borough could say, well, DPW says they can take that tree down for $950 for you?
They've got a stump removal device now, but I don't think they're in the business.
No, that's for the trees on public property, but,
Yeah.
No, I mean in the planning strip.
yeah, we've explored that. I don't think DPW wants to go down that route now. They're pretty busy enough, so. We just leave it with a private vendor.
And
there's a bunch,
Frustration, I was just,
Yeah,
We require a mark out.
brainstorming.
We require a mark out. Something very interesting that you may not be aware of. We had a stump, 7th Avenue? 7th Avenue by the lake. Sent the guy a letter, followed up, had a dialogue with him. Falkenberg came out and refused to take the stump down. Stump was maybe this high off the ground. So I spoke to Falkenberg. I said, we can't take that stump down. I said, why? Because there's a gas line. I said, really? Well, the gas lines run from the street to the house, right? We all familiar with that. So make a long story short, followed up with the mark out people. You dial 811, they come out and do a mark out where utilities are. So finally had a conversation with him, and he said, Keith, did you know that there's a gas line that runs from the lake all the way down 7th Avenue to, I guess, maybe A Street or B Street, that runs along the planting strip, not from street to house, along the planting strip.
the main line.
The main line. So we cannot go down. She said to me, maybe 10 years ago, we did that, and we had a serious gas leak. We cut the line. So
That's
no
why
one ever
after-
knew it until.
You're supposed to have a mark out for planting trees too, not only removal,
Right.
so.
So
One more thing. I've been complaining about the honey locusts. Now, there's two parts to this. The one is the ones that are growing wild along Silver Lake with the big thorns. And then there's the other part of it, the ones that are actually planted intentionally, but I assume that those are a thornless variety, right?
Yes, they are.
Yes. But so two of those were planted in the triangular park near my house at like 5th Avenue and D Street. And, well, I'm rooting for something different. Now that the three big Bradford pears were taken down, I'm thinking maybe something else is going to be planted there. And I'm hoping it's not going to be more honey locusts, because I can see a mighty oak, a couple of great oak trees there, the beech trees, maple, something. I'm just not impressed by the honey locust.
where's this?
The Triangle.
Triangle
Fifth
Park,
and
5th and,
We actually had something earmarked for there when Chris was here, at DPW, but I don't know I'm trying to remember what came of that.
I don't
So
remember.
I'm bringing that up because I really would hate to see more honey locusts getting there and then me try to complain after it already
Well, we
happened.
govern what we plant
I'm
there. We're not
lobbying
gonna
against-
plant honey locusts, so
No.
I don't think it's an issue.
What's that?
We're not gonna plant a honey locust.
Good, good, good.
Yeah, so-
Okay, so may I ask about the ones around Silver Lake? Shouldn't they be eradicated, all those nasty thorns?
So we're gonna.
Yeah, you were
we're gonna
talking about
work
that
with-
last year.
We need the planning with the Army Corps when we go through of what trees come out. I don't like those trees either. I went into the big, the thorns, but there's a time to take the trees out. The trees support different wildlife, different habitat, different birds. So we want to get some experts to tell us what comes out of the lake, what stays in the lake, and when to do it. So that would be on our list, because I would make the same thing that you would go, do we really need that many trees with thorns? Because they're also, I don't like them, because aren't they they're a rooting tree, they grow out off the roots and they just keep expanding. So we're on the same page as you. We don't
And,
like,
well, at one point, someone said that they're native, but I have two source books here that both say that they're not native. And if anybody thinks that they're native, you're welcome to look at my,
Okay, we'll take all that into consideration, sure.
and I'm sure the public's gonna have plenty of ability to comment on the lake plans too, so.
yeah, but this thing had years and years and years. I want those thorns out
Yeah,
a
but,
year ago, you know?
well,
That's up to you
I
guys.
don't know if you want to go, I'm not suggesting you go out at 2 o'clock in the morning, but I don't know what your alternative is. Because, we can't do anything like that, so I think that entire lake issue is left to the Environmental Commission. And I think Gary hit it right on the head. You can't do anything, you can't rush to the judgment on any of this stuff, because it definitely comes back, it will come back to haunt you somehow. And the same, we have, for instance, we have one person complaining, and I'm sure your complaints or your thoughts are legitimate, there may be other people that love them for some reason. So, I
Well,
think.
that's what I'm trying to find out. Why does anybody like them at all?
Well, I have no idea, but I'm just saying that's a possibility. And what I'm saying is, you have to go careful, we have to be careful of anything we do.
And I think that we have such an opportunity with the Army Corps
Yes.
coming in
Yeah.
and getting that
Exactly.
expertise
Yeah.
that.
And then we had to also get the permits, which Jim is working on for the wetland permits, for us to even put in a deal to go through, take things out and put new things in. We needed a permit for that. So we'll be going through all that, and
Exactly.
so it'll,
I mean, the lake has been, problematic for years, and now through Gary and the EC, they have a plan. They're approaching it, practically and professionally, so I'm very confident that they're on the right track and they're doing it the right way. I am anyway, I think everybody is, so hopefully.
Thanks.
Jim, I like when you say my name, but it's, we have a lake committee, and
Well,
Thank
Gary,
you.
because we talk all the
I know.
time. Me and Gary live across the
We're
street from
Christian,
each
so
other,
we
so
talk
we
to each
talk
other.
all the time, so I apologize for that, but
That's
yes,
all right.
the lake committee, thank you. Having nothing further, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain?
Anybody want any events?
No, I'll get them on Saturday.
Okay, so hopefully
I'll send you
we'll
that.
reconvene back in September, I'm sorry, November.
November,